Way back when I first started learning how to play War Thunder, before I was even able to memorize the weak spots on all the tanks I was fighting, I developed a kind of arch nemesis, an enemy the likes of which would induce a mix of fear and anger. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to pen their armor, and I was pissed when I wasn't able to. Of course, I'm talking about the T-34. These tanks made me so mad because they could drive around with impunity and kill me in one shot. Of course, this was back when I was new to War Thunder. Now the T-34 is just a little annoying and can sometimes provide the occasional challenge. But after I got over the T-34, I naturally went higher in battle rating and developed a new nemesis, the KV-1, and all of its variants. These were similar to the T-34, but their armor was much more deceptive. The flat upper front plate that seemed the obvious choice because of the similar looking weak spot in the Panzers was actually pretty armored for my puny little 75mm M3. Eventually, just like the T-34, I was able to reliably defeat KV-1s whenever I came across them. Well, all but one. There was always that one KV tank that would terrify me, the German KV-1C. The KV-1C was a captured KV tank with an upgunned German cannon. I would always ricochet when I tried to shoot it, and it would always kill me. This was back when the KV-1C was down at 4.7, and I could just never escape it. When I saw it in the game, I would avoid it at all costs. I had spent too much time in the past getting stunned by the KV-1C that I would rather move on and ignore it than try to kill it. Now, I know what you're thinking. I saw the title, I saw the thumbnail. Where's the IS-6? Please, Krabby, get to the point. Well, the point is, some tanks are untouchable. Some tanks can't be killed head-on, and you'll have to outplay them or avoid them if you want to survive. And eventually I conquered the KV-1C too. It's kind of embarrassing that this thing killed me as much as it did, because the KV-1C is kind of a joke now. But the IS-6? Oh no. I will absolutely avoid the IS-6 at all costs. Oh, there's one at A? I'll go to C. If my cannon doesn't seem up to snuff, I'll simply shoot the tracks and move on. Run away. The IS-6 is the pinnacle of these unkillable tanks, and the obvious logical next step here in this story is me telling you that I also conquered the IS-6. Nope, I did the opposite. I switched sides. If you can't kill them, buy the pack? What? So now I'll head over to my Russia 7.0 lineup with the IS-6 and feel unstoppable. I'm getting points, I'm making money, and I still don't feel confident enough to reliably kill an IS-6 in a game. I know you're supposed to shoot the mantlet, but the same problem I have with the T-34s and the KV-1s and the Panthers is that the mantlet feels more like a dice roll than a weak spot. I'd rather bet on the cannon barrel with its big, juicy muzzle brake than the mantlet. And yes, there are one other places to shoot, but that's only available with higher penning cannons. What am I supposed to do in a Super Pershing against an IS-6? Well, I know what I'm gonna do in an IS-6 versus a Super Pershing. I'm gonna win, that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, okay. Let's bring it back down a little bit. Let's talk about our favorite thing, tank stats. What do we have first? Well, of course, it's the armor. Starting with the whole armor, the IS-6 has 100mm of armor on the upper glacis angled at 65 degrees, with an effective thickness of about 200 to 250mm. The lower glacis has 120mm of armor angled at 53 degrees, having an effective thickness of about 220 to 230mm. The upper hull of the IS-6 also has plates of sloped armor, measuring 120mm thick on the edges to transition from sloped front plates to sloped side plates without creating an obvious weak spot. Directly facing it, the effective thickness of this armor is about 190 to 220mm. Now, this might surprise you to hear, but the side armor is actually thicker than the frontal armor at 120mm and is sloped at 45 degrees with an effective thickness of about 170mm. If we take a peek behind the track skirts, we can see the armor plates at 100mm sloped at 0 degrees, keeping its effective thickness about the same. The turret is constructed using one big piece of cast homogeneous armor measuring 150mm thick most of the way around. The back of the turret is only 100mm thick. The turret face is still that 150mm cast armor, but the mantlet has a different 150mm plate in the center with 100mm plates on the top and bottom. There's no MG port, no protruding cupola, the driver's hatch has extra armor, and the only armor that's not sloped is under the tracks on the sides. If you want to kill the IS-6, you have to shoot the mantlet, but only on the right side because the left side is too small. If you want to survive the IS-6 long enough for you or a teammate to flank it, shoot the muzzle brake. If you have a gun with pen over 300, then shooting lower front plate or the unangled edges will yield good results. Otherwise, try to take a decent shot and run. Speaking of decent shots, the IS-6 is packing a 122mm D30T cannon. This gun can only fire 3 different types of ammunition: APHE, APHE-BC, and high explosive. The 2 armor-piercing rounds have similar pen on flat plates of armor, but the ballistic cap shell has more pen on angled armor, making it the clear choice. The high explosive shell has 3.6 grams of explosive mass, which isn't a significant amount. If something with thin armor is bothering you and your armor-piercing shells won't fuse, you can use the HE. Otherwise, you're stuck with the APHE-BC. It has 205mm of pen, which isn't a lot at 7.0, but it's made up for with the larger caliber. The cannon has a huge boom, which should translate to a longer reload time. And indeed, with qualifications and a good crew, you'll still find the reload time to be right around 17 seconds, which kinda sucks, but you can work around it. Take your time, line up your shot, and anything that pens should result in a one shot thanks to the APHE. For some reason, the velocity will occasionally throw me off and cause me to miss out on some easy kills. I can't explain it, it's clearly a skill issue, but it keeps happening and I figured I would just mention it. The turret rotation is pretty slow, but I never find it to be a big problem because the IS-6 is fast. With the big tracks and the massive engine, the IS-6 can be almost anywhere at once. Just don't try to reverse, you know, because it's a Russian tank, right? I mean, come on. Nope! This thing reverses like a boss. With a top reverse speed of 19 kilometers per hour, when your cannon barrel inevitably gets shot, you can just nope out of the AO in seconds. Another big surprise, this thing also drives forward, and its top speed is 44 kilometers per hour. It's not an incredible top speed, but the significant thing here is that it only takes a few moments to get up to 35. But what can you do with all that speed? Where can you go? Well, how did I get 6 kills? I haven't even been paying attention. I'm like watching TV right now. I want to say this thing has more effective armor than the Jumbo. Obviously the IS-6 has better armor side by side, but I mean at their respective battle ratings, the IS-6 is more difficult to kill than the Jumbo. And a full up tier at 6'3", things like the Long 88 and Heat of Fest can kill the Jumbo. Even the Panthers can upper front plate the Jumbo at close range. With the IS-6, you either have Heat of Fest and a Discarding Sabo that can do some decent post-pen damage, because, well, we all know what early Heat of Fest is like. And all I got was the driver. Very annoying. Sometimes Heat of Fest won't work properly against your armor, sometimes darts will ricochet, and sometimes you get a full down tier where those 2 shells are exceedingly rare to find in a game, in which case, keep yourself from getting flanked and you will stay alive the entire game. You just have to fight the urge. The urge to hold W in a fast tank with amazing armor and laugh at all of your enemies until you get outflanked and outnumbered by 5 tanks with a vengeance. If you meet an IS-6 player who stays alive longer than 5 minutes and plays patiently, then you just know they're gonna get you. Oh, but it's just too much fun! Why play the IS-6 if you can't drive towards a tank at full speed while it frantically attempts to disable something, anything on your tank for you to just sneeze and kill it? I love the feeling of invincibility. I love knowing what ammo types a certain tank has access to and knowing that none of those can do any serious damage to me. I love it even with the knowledge that holding W for too long will get me killed. The hard part about playing chicken is knowing when to flinch. So I'll just sneak this in here like the last video. The IS-6 pack costs $40. You get the tank, 1000 GE, and a week of premium time. It's at rank 4, which means it can effectively research from rank 4 to 5. If you want to grind through the Russian tech tree, I would highly recommend the IS-6. It can't research the entire tree, but it's a great start to get you through the first couple of ranks. Even if you're new to the game, and maybe you just hit rank 3, I would still recommend the IS-6. Its armor is super good, so if you mess up positionally, it can still save you. The reload and the almost good shell will help discipline your aiming. Plus, the SL and RP rewards are good. For experienced players, I recommend the IS-6 for the same reasons. The armor can save really anybody from dying when they mess up. And because it's at 7.0, you can pretty easily get the nuke. Thank you guys for watching and for leaving comments about what I should do next. I read all your comments and usually I reply to requests by saying, no promises. I'll make the video eventually, I just don't want to guarantee anything. I also enjoy reading comments saying I'm wrong because I can argue that I'm right, only to find out later that I really was wrong. So thank you for commenting, and as always, bye bye.